Welcome back, everybody. We have another panel. Justice Con. It's our Diversity in Zack's Film panel. And we are welcomed by... Go ahead, Sheraz.
Hey, everyone. If you guys know me, Sheraz Farooqi. I'm the editor-in-chief of Comic Book Debate. And I own the YouTube channel, Comic Book Debate, with the Farooqi brothers, my brothers Jan, Umar, and Samir. And the four of us together, we've been hosting a podcast. We've had guests like Clay Enos, Fabian Wagner, Jay Oliva, a lot of people you've seen this weekend at JusticeCon. Additionally, I'm also a journalist. I'm a reporter. I've had bylines at Newsweek, at The Hollywood Reporter. I'm a film critic at Rotten Tomatoes. You can catch my film reviews there. And I've also written some stuff for Screen Rant. So I'm very much embedded in this fandom, very much embedded in the world of DC and the world of Zack Snyder, and of course, the world of Superman.
Beautiful.
I'm Jonita Davis. I am a film critic and journalist, also a college professor, part-time, got to pay the bills. Journalism does not pay very well. You can see my stuff on theblackcape.com. That's kind of my film blog. And I've also got the Blurred Galaxy magazine that started this weekend. And I'm, like Sheraz, I'm a journalist. I have stuff everywhere, Washington Post, Yes Magazine. I've had things in the New York Times, just everywhere. But this fandom is like one that I kind of, is kind of close to my heart. I kind of got into this fandom like a year ago, but my family's always been DC fans. My kids have names from Superman comics. My husband's a really big Superman fan. So yeah, the fandom is really, something that I just watching y'all. I've actually been kind of studying and participating and studying and participating and reporting. So yeah, and good job yesterday on all those interviews, girls.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Chris.
And I'm Chris Wong-Swenson. I'm the host of Ping Pong Flick Show, which is really me, myself, and I. Self-proclaimed YouTube journalist. Since this is a journalist panel, I might as well throw that in. And I gotta say, been doing the Ping Pong Flick Show, covering DC, especially Zack Snyder content since BVS when that came out. And I'd like to say hello, fellow associate producers of Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yes.
Hello. How does that feel?
Yeah.
I already changed my tag on my Twitter. I threw it
like
out there.
Everybody just put it in there, either in their bio or it's like directly in their name.
If you've got LinkedIn, throw that in there. It's just good.
I love somebody.
Yeah.
I love how someone put out a tweet yesterday, and it was like, "Look at me, I'm associate producer on like $250 million movie, and all I had to do for it was vined for 2 years on Twitter."
All right.
Like, okay,
so,
when you look at it that way.
When putting this panel together, all three of you came into my mind almost instantly. And there's certain topics that I would love for you guys to hit on. So Sheraz, I know that you've done some amazing work with Superman and his immigrant story. So why don't we just dive right in and let's talk.
Sure. So, funny enough, the Ultimate Immigrant Story, that was actually my debut article, the first article I ever wrote. And it was actually for Geeks of Color, and then I spun that off as our debut article for Comic Book Debate when we launched the site in 2017. So in many ways, it's kind of become my magnum opus of sorts. People usually cite that article, say, "Oh, I remember reading that." And I always appreciate that. So definitely want to start this little soliloquy by saying thank you to everyone who's been supporting me. Because, there was a lot of hate that came when I wrote that the first time, but seeing over the years so many people gravitate towards it means it was well worth writing. Mm-hmm. But, when it comes to Superman, it's worth prefacing that the character's always kind of been this immigrant story, So if you know Superman, he's been created by two sons of Jewish immigrants, right? The word Kal-El is Hebrew, right? And then even in Arabic, the word Khalil means friend, right? So if you've been growing up with the Christopher Reeve movies, if you're someone from the our past generation, you're gonna know that Superman's whole thing was, I'm a friend, the friend of humanity, right? So right away, Superman is instilled, already embedded with this sense of belonging, but also resonating with people who don't necessarily feel like they belong all the time, right? So now the next question comes, how do you bring that to screen in a valuable way? And I feel like Zack Snyder, is particularly starting with Man of Steel, did that very well, and the idea of balancing two different cultures is a big point of that piece. The idea of someone who has a birth culture that they're not familiar with and they're seeking it actively, while also having the culture they've been raised in, right? So anyone who's born of two cultures, like myself, I was, born and raised here in New York City, but obviously I have family that have come from Pakistan. I have a lot, obviously it's a Muslim family. So right away, you're balancing two cultures, you're balancing two different ideas, and finding where you fit in that is kind of the journey that everyone goes on. And it doesn't matter where you're from, but that's kind of a similar journey you go on. So I felt right away when it comes to Superman, I felt that. I'm like, wait, I'm seeing this on screen and I can see what's going on. And Zack Snyder himself said in interviews at Man of Steel's premiere saying that Superman is the ultimate immigrant. This is why I got that title when I wanted to word it. It's because he very much is. So when you look at all of that and you move to Batman v Superman, this is when I feel like that story of identity becomes a story about society and what society means for people of color, for minorities, for any kind of disenfranchised group. So now we take Superman, that same character you've seen in Man of Steel, you've seen him find his identity. He ended up choosing Earth at the end. He fought off, his own people, made a sacrifice, killing Zod, who was the last of his own kind, right? So you've now established that's the foundation, Man of Steel. So now in BVS, what do you see? You see Batman versus Superman. And then you got to look at where Batman's coming from. So, and when you look at Batman's line about, if there's even a 1% chance he is our enemy, you got to take it as absolute certainty. Well, it's not a coincidence. That's the exact same line Dick Cheney used when it came to invading the Middle East, right? It's the exact same line. It was a 1% theory, right? And he basically said, if there's a 1% chance there's a terrorist attack or whatever, we got to take it as certainty. We got to go in there. And we saw, it's well known, the kind of bloodshed that happened, especially for innocent civilians in that region, right? Mm-hmm. So now someone who knows that can now bridge the gap between Batman and Superman and say, okay, so Batman's taking this perspective. We have a broken Batman. We have a Batman that is not who he's supposed to be, right? We're meeting Batman at a point where he's at his lowest. He's been deconstructed. So the next step is building him back up, which Zack Snyder, the whole crew, Chris Terry, did it expertly in that movie. So you get the Martha scene. Obviously, everyone's going to have their opinion. It's part of a pop culture thing now. But the Martha scene itself is, it's very simple themes, very easy to grasp. You have the same mother. What does that mean? The alien connecting with the human, right? So I just found that absolutely interesting. And I was noticing that nobody was writing about that, especially when the critics came out, the reviews were coming out. At the time, I was not a committed journalist yet. I was still working in Wall Street as a financial advisor. So I was thinking, why isn't anyone writing about this? So let me just write something. And, my friends at Geeks of Color were very kind enough to allow me to, publish that piece there before comic book debate was even a thing. So I put it together and I put it out there, and I'm very happy with what happened because I feel like that kind of conversation was put out there, and then of course it was given the stamp of approval when Zack Snyder shared that article on Vero, and he said the very simple words. He just said, this is beautifully written and accurately stated, right? And I feel like, okay, Zack just put his stamp of approval. If you're someone who's harboring any kind of bigotry and you're in this fandom, you got to look in the mirror right now because Zack himself just basically spelled out what the story of Batman and Superman and these two movies meant. So I'm very happy that I got a chance to explore that Superman. There's so much more to explore. There's so many more people who've written even better pieces than mine about the same topic. So I definitely encourage anyone who's reading this to go out there and seek it out. And you'll hear from these other panelists right here with me that other characters share that same kind of treatment.
Yeah. Can I mention about the one thing I liked about that, Sheraz, is that was the first article I read that stated something different, something in my mind. And I'm a Dragon Ball fan, so Goku is kind of the same way. He's when they were talking about why is the character in Dragon Ball Evolution, he's not Japanese. Well, he's an alien. There is no other, that's a different race. That's an actual race right there. It's not like us. We're human we're all human. We're all the same, shades of color, but we're all pretty much human. But in that aspect where Superman is an actual different race, there is racism in that, where Batman was looking at him differently, thinking he's much dangerous. When you put aside the comic aspects about it, you can delve into much deeper than that. Superman becomes something that means so much more internationally now, because it's not just the American way. It doesn't have to be just the American way. Everybody is looking at Superman, whether it be in India, in Australia, Africa. They look at him as themselves sometimes, trying to be accepted. And I love that piece, because that spoke differently to other for me, who always didn't be in the comic book medium, but loving that aspect to delve in much deeper and deeper understanding for that character.
No, and I fully appreciate that, man. And definitely, I think this is something that Deborah spoke about in the last panel. It's something that Zach spoke about many times before, is this idea of that, you shouldn't be afraid of deconstructing a character. Ray Fisher said it himself, the looking at something that's not an idealized world, right? And I feel like for Superman, that ends up becoming a huge point of contention, because a lot of people feel like Superman should be the idealized character. And I can see both sides of it. I can see how people love Superman, who is idealized. They love the Christopher Reeve Superman. So do I. But at the same time, you got to look at the world in both a realistic way. And for Superman especially, he's been in a realistic setting in the comics many times, right? I mean, you can cite Action Comics 900, where he gave up his American citizenship when he was asked to go into the Middle East, right? There's Superman Birthright, there's Superman Earth 1. The comics have been doing this, right? So it's about, when it happens on film to a wider audience, people get taken aback and they don't really understand it. They're going to take it as Superman's too dark. Well, is he dark or is he realistic? There's two very different variations that seem sphere. There's so much gray area. And the reason I feel, and I've spoken to so many people of color, I've spoken to dreamers about why they feel like Superman resonates with them, particularly Zack Snyder's. And again, it's this idea of idealized world versus the real world, right? Because disenfranchised people, minorities, people of color, they don't necessarily get to even have that idealistic world. When people talk about Superman, they talk about the old America, right? Oh, how, the old American ideals. But what is the old American ideals to people of color, right? What does that mean? And really, for people in the Black community, there is no such thing as an idealized world in America for that community, right? Then same thing with dreamers, same thing with, honestly, even the Muslims after post 9/11, right? So you got to look at things that way. And when you put Superman in a realistic world, then a lot of the people who thought Superman was too boring, Superman was not relatable, suddenly like, wait a minute, this character does have something for me, right? And that's why I see both sides of it. I grew up as a lifelong Superman fan, so I love Superman since the animated series, but I see exactly why Zack Snyder's Superman introduced so many new people. And I feel like that's the best thing, when a character is this old and can get new fans this late in his life cycle of 80 years, that's a good thing. So I'm very happy that people are seeing and resonating with that character.
I think my favorite thing about his portrayal in recent years, especially in Man of Steel, it shows what Superman would be like today, like right now. If Superman were to crash land on Earth right now, today, how polarizing his character would be. I mean, there'd be people calling him like a freak or get him out of here, and then there's people who would treat him like a god, similar to the movie.
I think it kind of hits on the way we do the mythology for us. Superman has been around so long, and there's so many. We know his story. I mean, his origin story and the idealized story, to where it's like Greek mythology. The way they used to think of the gods as being all great and all powerful, but there are these stories about when they do come down, to visit the humans, how they're pretty big a-holes, and they destroy stuff, so it's, to me, that it kind of tracks the same way, when you kind of look at the way when you get a god and you bring the god amongst the humans, what's going to happen. You're not going to get like all ice cream and sundays and 30 days. It's going to be there's going to be some stuff happening, because the way this world is. And I think I think some people kind of grasp on to that kind of mythological because they don't want to look at the reality. And, kind of Zach's way of kind of putting this, and the article actually Sheraz wrote, it kind of, it shines that harsh light of reality on the things that I don't think people are ready for. But there's some of us, we don't have the, like you said, we don't have the luxury of idealizing, because I don't know what that idealized life looks like.
Yeah.
When you grow up being told that there's certain things you cannot do, certain places you cannot go, certain things you cannot say around certain people. You've got these, you grow up with these restrictions. I don't know how life is being unrestricted, being told that I can do anything anywhere I want. So that there's a difference. There's a huge difference, and so I think that I think the world needs more of the type of writing, like Sheraz, like the article you did was really, really good. And I think that Zack's portrayal of the superheroes as this is what's going to happen if you get a god come to Earth. Well, they don't know what to do. You're going to have, like you said, worshiping and want to destroy him. So and that's how we are. And like Ray said yesterday, we don't even have we don't have ourselves together. We don't even get along with ourselves.
Yeah.
How are we along, with an alien? So yeah, it's that harsh light of reality. And I think a lot of people are not comfortable.
Yeah. Sheraz, I wanted to get your opinion kind of on when you see things from people that take Zack's work and cast a negative light on it, say it's like racist, homophobic, or whatever. What's the first thing you think of?
The main thing that comes to my mind is, it comes from a place of ignorance, right?
Yeah.
And, I try, there's a thing I try to do, I kill them with kindness, and try to introduce people with, here's reading materials, try to do this. And a lot of times I do find that people actually end up gravitating towards this. A lot of people who completely were against so many things that I've written about the character, when you sit down and explain it, they do start to understand it. But then, of course, you're going to have the lost causes. You're going to have people who, no matter what, are going to hate. And that comes from two places, right? That comes from one, either you are going to be like, everything is SJW, this, that, the other thing. Then there's people who generally don't like Zack Snyder, and anything he does, they're going to be coming in with a preconceived notion, right? We saw that with Sucker Punch. We saw that with 300 to a degree. We saw that, of course, with BVS. And people say Superman's, Ayn Rand, fascist. I don't know what they're saying. And half the time I'm looking at it, I'm like, where are you getting this? Where's the subtext, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're going to say something, you got to back it up. Where's the scene where you're seeing this? Are you going to keep spewing out that, no one stays good in this world, when clearly in context, it's part of the arc that's going on? What are you looking at? So a lot of times when you can say something, you should. But at times, if you're someone who's going to be completely pig-headed about it, you're just going to have to ignore, which is kind of my policy these days, because trolls are going to be trolls. People are going to hate Zack just for hating Zack. And there's people just going to hate minorities for being minorities. That's the world we live in. So it kind of is what it is usually where I like to leave it at.
That is frustrating when you say that, when they have those negative, like they're like you said, they're pulling out all these negatives to something that Zack has done that, to my eyes, is positive. Like you see inclusion, you see women of power, like in you talked to Deb about, and you see like one of the things that when I saw Justice League, even though that was Justice League in theaters, I get it, understand. But one
Someone
thing
pull
that
up
I saw,
that review video.
Yeah, we're never forgetting your review.
Right. But that you see the Amazons, and you see Samantha Jones, like, she's Asian, like, but she's an Amazon. And then you see black people as Amazons. They're not just one color. So I was like, that's awesome. That's something that I can stand by, definitely.
And I mean, there's when you were speaking of this, I mean, we just spoke to Deb, and literally there was a question, what you're looking for on set when you walk in there, and there was that it was in a subtext as a woman, but in the sense like that it goes for everybody. And she said, I'm looking for diversity. I want to have a diverse, production team. I want to have everybody represented, and I think people really, really failed to see that as far as that goes, whether it's him, being really supportive of strong women in portrayal of, in his portrayal, or whether it's diversity in general. Like, he doesn't, it's just the general way that he treats people, in my opinion. he doesn't look at, like, he is just so respectful and he wants to empower everyone. I mean, that's at least like my own experience with him and with Deb. And I think that it's such a shame that there are people who just fail to see that. But like Sheraz said, they're just haters out there, and
Yeah.
there's really nothing you can do about them at one point. I mean, if you're not willing to listen, if you're not willing to learn, there is nothing I can do.
No.
Yeah.
On the topic of talking kind of about race, I wanted Joe to hit on, she's done a lot of amazing work with Ray Fisher as of late. And I also want her to kind of talk about the whitewashing that we saw in Justice League. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, everything that I wrote about Ray, I mean, you can go to the Justice Con interview with him yesterday. I think he expanded pretty much better than that, but better than I could have. But yeah, starting with the whitewash. I actually did not see in the Justice League movie. I did see the Amazon. I think I was just tripping off of the Amazons being like just like really diverse. I mean, usually there's just a bunch of white girls running after Wonder Woman when you see them, but you know, it's like they had like everybody there, and I'm like, oh, okay. See, I always knew that, you know, you could have like more than just white girls as Amazons, but but I wasn't really into the movie. And my husband, you know, Superman fan, complained, but there were some fans about a year ago who came to me who were like, okay, you got to see this stuff, and they showed me what Zack had been releasing, and I'm like, these are black people, and I didn't see any of them in this movie. So I've seen pictures of Ray and his parents, Ray and like doing some stuff with the community, you know, in playing football, and there was his mom and his girlfriend or friend in the stands, and there were like all these people around. There was like this diverse crowd, and I'm like, where did all these people go? So, and I'm sorry, Iris is a blink and miss it type of thing in the movie. I barely registered her, and so I started looking, and I'm like, there's all kinds of people who are like left out of the Justice League version, and I didn't know why, and so I started pursuing that, and I kind of got to the point where it came down to Ray, and when I talked to him, and it kind of cemented this man, this black superhero. Cyborg was the center of the story, which I know Zack had always said, you know, Cyborg is the heart. But he's so perfect with everything, you know. So I'm like, okay, he could mean that he's like the center of the movie, but that's not been done. Putting a black dude as the major character, or you know, any kind of marginalized person as the major character in a superhero movie, like, can't get it, you know. But yeah, talking to Ray was like, you know, before they had the script, you know, Zack and Chris and I said, yeah, and I'm like, wait a minute, what? So before they even put this together, it was about this black character and getting it right. So why was this character like relegated to just like a side version of the Justice League movie when he should have been the whole damn movie? And so that's I mean, I've been on that crusade to get people to see, you know, this erasure and not just to see it, but to see what it means. I mean, it means that you've taken this whole character, this strong black character that's unproblematic, who could have been something that kids, you know, have been, I mean, looking up to. I mean, kids have been looking up to Cyborg for a while because he's differently able. He's, you know, he's black, and you know, he's a very strong guy, and his storyline is phenomenal. But what if we would have had him through his own movie? You know, like a year before Black Panther came out.
Right.
I mean, I know everybody's like interested in, okay, you know, yeah, you know, we can do black movies because Black Panther, you know, $1 billion, but I could have done that a year sooner. I mean, I truly could have, and we could have had it a year sooner. And the fact that they didn't have faith enough in it, or whatever the reason that he cut the entire, I mean, you have to imagine how much cutting you have to do to cut this person down to just a side character.
Yeah.
people talk about, oh yeah, it's just a few cuts he made. No, he cut the story of this person out. So that means he had to rebuild everything to try to patch those holes up. And I don't think people understand that. And I need that meme with that little kid. I'm like sitting there thinking of this meme with this little kid screaming, "It's racist!" So
Yeah.
I feel like telling everybody, this is fucking racist. I mean, you should not be able to. I mean, you should not be doing this. And I don't know why people are still, kind of hesitant to talk about it. So I'm glad Ray is like out there saying,
Oh yeah.
He's like, it's not just about him being black. He's differently abled. We don't have, this character that's, an amputee, who's got, organs and parts of his body, replaced with prosthetics. How many people in this country, have like some kind of disability, whether it's, ADHD like me, and, or, maybe they've got some kind of physical disability, who identify with this guy who, has this moment of trauma that he has to get over, and he has to find a way to pick himself back up and to be a different type of human after, after figuring out his life, after, learning about his disability. There's like so many lessons. And I just don't. My biggest frustration is how this is still not a big story.
Yeah.
I really appreciate Ray for saying, he's like speaking out way more.
It is bigger after yesterday.
Yeah, it is
Yes.
after yesterday. There's the call out, but you've got this whole swath of DC fans, of Snyder Cut fans, who are black and brown people who have been saying this since they saw the movie. You finally got me to say something, and so I've been like screaming it, and but still, I think that until when the movie comes out, I think these fans are gonna be the most vindicated of all. I think because they saw themselves. You don't understand how it feels to see yourself just kind of pushed aside. Just like you just take a big eraser and just kind of
Right.
how easy it is to get us out of a movie. That's what it feels.
Well, for me, I think that, like, personally, after seeing the movie, I was like, well, he's not in it much. And I feel like the only reason why they really kept him in there is because they advertised him so much in the trailers.
That's the way it feels, right?
Yes.
I said this, and I said this multiple times. I said it to multiple people, including Zach, actually. I said, it felt like they kept him in for the sake of keeping him in.
Yeah.
Like, his story was not cohesive in the movie. It didn't connect to things. It was literally like as if you just take this random puzzle piece and put it into a different place. Because he just, like, I don't know how they did it. Like, whoever was in, I'm not saying it's just written because we have no fucking idea. I'm sorry, but we don't. But like, I don't know how they did it, but they essentially like cropped out any kind of storyline that he had there.
Yeah.
They essentially just had him there like a stick figure, just stand on the side. And now I can't really relate to everything about, obviously, Cyborg, because I do live in privilege. But in the same time, I am disabled, and I have been through, that side of his story. And so, it's very, like, in that sense, it was important to me to see.
Yeah.
As well. Like, that's why I was looking forward to seeing him. Because it was just something, it was something that was the aspect of his story that I could personally relate to. Just like for Superman, I can relate to the immigrant story. And it doesn't make my story like in any way as, like, it doesn't make my own self sense. Anyway, and it's not the same as it's for you guys.
Right.
But in the same time, I felt upset by that as well. And I feel I just don't understand how can you erase character to such degree, and you just keep him there to parade him around on the posters, and that's it. And you think that you're gonna get away with it. That's just such an insult to like everything.
Well, in a sense, they did get away with it because nobody was really saying anything. I mean, when it was brought to me, I feel bad about this, but I questioned it too because I'm like, Cyborg was there for like a hot minute. What do you mean? It was about him. I'm like, okay, so what is the other movie that I missed between, the two? Because maybe there's another one before Justice League that came out and explained it a little bit better. They're like, no. You have to look at what Zack's released. You have to look at, the trailer. You have to look at look at Cyborg's story. You have to put all this together. When you put all this together, you'll see that, what they did was they butchered him out of this movie. And so, yeah. And like you said, there's so many other people who could have related to him because he's got this, if you know his story, when he first got put into that body and he found out that his human parts were not there and they were replaced with artificial parts, he could not control his own body. He wanted to kill himself. He asked his father, why didn't you kill me?
Yeah.
And then there were like other, like you go a couple panels later and there was another, suicide, kind of mention. Probably should have gave a trigger warning before I said anything, but in the comic, that Teen Titans comic where that told his origin, that's in there. And I know, anybody who's got a disability, who, when you're diagnosed with it, kind of had this out of body experience, like, okay, so I've got this part of me I can't control. What do I do? And there's also this moment where he's walking around amongst humans, kind of in a Superman type of moment, and he's realizing he's not one of them anymore, and he doesn't look like them, and they're staring at him. I'm like, how many people can relate to this? Part of knowing you're different, either because you're in a wheelchair or you've got crutches. I know my best friend in school, she was white, but she had CP and she had crutches for a while, and people would stare, and and I used to be like, I used to feel bad, about that. And she like, don't say anything to them. They're just, so gotten used to it by then. She'd gotten, she'd found, her, the thing that motivates her, kind of like Cyborg does in that first comic. And in that comic, his origin story, he talks about at the end finding his family and thanking the Justice League and Teen Titans for, helping him find his way away from the rage and the frustration of not being able to control his body. So anyway, I'm rambling on now, but there's so guy could have offered people, all kinds of people, and this movie could have been so much better and so much more, not really therapeutic, but it could have resonated, I think.
Well, it will be so much better.
Yeah, it was
everything. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying it was just a waste. Yeah.
I'll say everything that Jonita said right now just kind of hits it on the head, because Cyborg as a character, he means different things to different people. And to someone who's in a position of power, someone like a Joss Whedon, who I would say is even a more position of power than anyone else. Very few in the industry had that kind of power, especially at that time, coming off of 2 Avengers movies that were doing $1 billion. So, you feel like you're in charge, you feel like you can do what you want, and you feel like everything you think is right? And, it reminds me of a piece that, our writer, Donia Harrington, she wrote the first week Justice League came out on November 24th even. It was called "Cyborg is not here for your comic relief," right? And the first sentence of that piece was, "What does Cyborg mean to you?" And I feel like, well, ask yourself that. What does Cyborg mean to you? And turns out, to people who are executives, people whose job it is to sit there and either say yes or no, thumbs up or thumbs down in a movie. Well, what does Cyborg mean to them? Clearly, not much, right? Because for them, everything is a dollar amount. Is Cyborg a $1 billion character? Is he a $1 billion IP? Oh, he's not. So not important. Take it out, right? Yeah. And turns out it fell on their face because they underestimated this fandom. They underestimated how many people truly love Cyborg, starting first and foremost with the actor who played him, right, in Ray Fisher. And Ray Fisher's not been quiet about it, and that's great. And his conversations with Jonita in both interviews really set on that, especially in the panel yesterday as well. So I think the first thing we gotta do, and that comes to everyone, is you gotta listen. You gotta listen. What do characters mean to different people? And it's not always what you think. It's not always quantifiable to a dollar amount. A lot of times it means so much more. And Cyborg as a character, when you're carving out pieces of Justice League, they carved out the heart to start with, right? That's the first thing you cut out. Cut the heart out. So how's the body gonna survive? Well, it doesn't, right? And the movie failed the second Cyborg was cut out of the movie. And then again, I'm citing Jonita's interview again with Cyborg, with Ray Fisher, and same thing. he spoke to Zack and to Chris Terrio, literally saying that here's ways I can improve the script. And what they did is what I just said. They listened, right? Where's Ray coming from? What is he saying? Why is he saying it? And guess what? They listened. The script was improved. And we're just talking about Chris Terrio. Chris Terrio is an Oscar winner. He's one of the best in the business when it comes to writing. And he looked at Ray Fisher, who's honestly a newcomer, coming into this industry, and he listened. He's like, you are saying something that I can improve upon. And the script, even though we have not seen the movie, we know that they listened by the amount of praise that Ray Fisher heaps on both Zack and also Chris Terrio. So, it's safe to say that, in Zack Snyder's Justice League, we're going to see Cyborg as intended, and who knows, if we got this to start with, by now we could have gotten more Cyborg. We would have had probably a Cyborg solo. And the reason it was cut out was because Warner Brothers did not want it at the time. But things have changed. New leadership is here. Different people are listening now. And they seem to, hopefully, are actually putting their pulse on the fandom. And the fandom is much more diverse than they give credit for. The general audience is much more diverse than they give credit for. There's a reason why Black Panther kept getting delayed, right? Because they knew that it's not going to push it because it's not a priority. He's not Spider-Man. Well, guess what? You were doing better than Spider-Man numbers, right? When the movie came out, because you underestimated what this fandom is all about. So when Justice League comes out, I would be very confident that people are going to be resonating with Ray Fisher Cyborg, and hopefully we'll get much more.
Yeah.
Oh,
Fingers crossed. I mean, if for nothing else, obviously we haven't seen his full performance yet, but if for nothing else, like what Ray Fisher stands for and what he's been doing these past weeks especially, it's just like he's been inspirational off screen and on screen. Like it's just he deserves to give that character justice in that sense. He deserves to portray him, and you could tell like when we spoke to him yesterday, he has a passion for the character, and he even said it like it was a DC all the way. Like he could have gone both ways. He could have gone to Marvel as well, and he chose this, and he chose the character because it resonated with him, and so he deserves to show it to a full potential, and I think that he's gonna do great. I mean, I can't wait, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
In my mind, he chose Cyborg over Black Panther, because he had those interviews, with Marvel.
That's hilarious.
So there's a higher lesson here that it shows what can happen when you have leadership, like Zack and Chris and Debbie, who know their limitations, who know that, I know I'm very knowledgeable in A, B, and C, but D I have no clue about. So let me get somebody else and listen to them and have their input in here, and then we can make this thing better. And it seems to be Zack's kind of MO of finding people who kind of fill the holes of knowledge where he can't. And he's not afraid of admitting, I went to this person for this, and I that he got Ray to do, to bring him, the knowledge of, Cyborg, let him be the expert of Cyborg. I mean, Ray said even yesterday in my interview, he was able to speak up and say, okay, Cyborg would never do something like that. He was able to advocate for this character, and Zack was like, okay, I think having leaders who are, and who are confident enough in themselves to know that they do not know everything. They are not all knowing. I think that that's what we need more of. And hopefully that's what we've gotten now in the studio. They're listening to the fandoms, and they're learning, and they're knowing. They're not just looking at this idea that there's only a bunch of white guys and Marvel, that they're seeing that there's a bunch of people, and they're different races, they're different creeds, different religions, and different abilities, and so maybe they need to put an ear to the ground first before they start making decisions about movies.
Right.
I don't know about.
And I agree with that. Where it kind of Ray Fisher talking about this kind of brought out different people. I don't know this is a side subject, but Peter Shinkota, who plays Nobu on Daredevil, he just came out today saying that they wrote his origin out.
Really?
Jeff Loeb wrote his origin out of Daredevil, and he was really upset about that. He was on Zoom talking about that, and I was like, wow. So it really is a larger picture here, and I'm very happy people are now talking about it, because he said that Hollywood doesn't like Chinese or Asian people.
I feel like Ray Fisher opened the floodgates. It's important that he did, and it's important like even now, more than ever, I feel like, given all the situation that's been going on and stuff, I feel like it's so important that he did open the floodgates, because we need to talk about this. And everyone needs to talk about this, because that's the only way that we can make a change in what's going on right now.
And I think Justice League is the perfect opportunity. As you can tell, I'm a Power Rangers fan. And in Power Rangers, it's very diverse, right? Each color is a different race, especially what Saban wanted to do. He wanted to include all different cultures into it. And I think Justice League is that. We got Aquaman, who's a Polynesian, Gal is Israeli, and then of course we have your Caucasians as well, Ben Affleck and things like that, but also Ray Fisher and Martian Manhunter. We were supposed to have Martian Manhunter. They cut him out. They cut out Ryan Choi. They cut, and
it just goes on and on. It's insane.
Right, it goes on and on. Yeah. But with all the go ahead.
But that was, I have a theory that there was supposed to be another one. I mean, no, everybody's talking about the Green Lanterns. The Green Lantern Corps was in Justice League, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's supposed to be Hal Jordan." No, I think Ryan Reynolds has already said that's not going to happen. And the most popular Green Lantern is Jon Stewart. He's black. I think he was supposed to be there, and I think he's gonna be in there. Just theory.
I second that.
I would love Jon Stewart. I grew up on Jon Stewart, I grew up with Hal Jordan in the comics, but watching it for the first time animated, Justice League animated, Jon Stewart was my Green Lantern.
Yeah, I think he was a Green Lantern. Hey, I mean, and he was a Green Lantern for people who didn't grow up with him. Like I've known no adult. You have him.
By the way, so Chris, cute. do you have your badge?
He has the big 18-inch figure. I wanted to borrow it, but he told me not to get it dirty. I'm like, what do you mean? My 17-year-old. I'm like, I'm just gonna bring. You know what? This okay. But there are kids who grew up on him, but there are adults who watch too, and that's their Green Lantern. He's like, because he's the most popular because he was outspoken against injustice. He spoke out against injustice when the Justice League didn't want to hear. They're like, "Oh, we have a plan to save." He's like, "But these people, we got to help these people." But we have bigger things. But he's like, "No, we got to help these people." And he had the best. When it came to like the figures that he made with his ring, he made the best. I'm sorry. I'm hands down. They've not even made anything. They've not even made anything. Even with this new couple, they've not even done anything nearly what Jon did. But I think that Jon Stewart was in the Snyder Cut. I think he's gonna be in there. That's just a theory I have.
Same. The next topic I wanted Chris to kind of hit on, because you've been so active in the Snyder Cut community, especially on YouTube, how global the Snyder Cut community actually is, and how diverse Zack's fans are, because there's this narrative that we're all just white dudes.
Oh, I think it's very diverse. I mean, there's
huge. Not a single white dude on this panel, for example.
But it's huge. No, you're right. At first you don't know because they're just a bunch of names and handles. But then when we got together and we did a video about releasing Snyder Cut, we all gave our thoughts, whether it be Ben Affleck or He Has Yet to Rise or Zack Snyder's Snyder Cut. You see different faces and different people with different accents, and it's like, oh, this is beautiful. This is a rainbow of culture wanting Zack Snyder's Justice League, wanting the Snyder Cut, because everybody feels they have a little bit of that in that, and I think that's such a wonderful thing to see. It's something that you don't see every day, especially that's something will hit people from different parts of the world, different ways, but all loving it at the same time. So all the heart is there, and I think it's such a magical thing. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, this fandom is just. It's hard to quantify what a global investment means. And when it comes to everybody around the world coming together for one goal, and it was goal for Zack Snyder's Justice League. But what does that mean? Why would they want this as opposed to any other movie? And then you come to a conclusion that's because they're resonating with it. We talked about for the last 30, 40 minutes or so about why people resonate with it. Whether it be Superman, whether it be Cyborg, whether it be Wonder Woman or Aquaman, whatever the case might be, people are seeing themselves in these characters. And we're talking people don't even speak English. You see how much of a massive fandom the country of Brazil has when it comes to DC, right? Like in DC, Warner Brothers just recently realized this. It was a couple of years ago. Wait a minute, this whole continent we've been largely ignoring, but they're obsessed with DC Comics, right? Why can't we just touch on that more? And now you see with Wonder Woman 84, how they're pushing a marketing towards that region as well. And then we had Ayman Hariri on our podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he's in Saudi Arabia. Now you look at Saudi Arabia; these are people in the Middle East who are obsessed with Batman, Superman, obsessed with Man of Steel, want the Snyder Cut. And then you look even in our live chat, there's people from all over the country, all over the world, rather, saying things. And even within America, you have different cultures. That's why it's frustrating when, like Meg pointed out, that people tend to ignore it. You know, they brush over the fandom. Oh, alt-right fandom. Like, what does that mean? And then when people do step up and they say something, it's, who are these people? Ignore, usually, right? And then that's when the erasure comes in, right? You're erasing now because you're ignoring them. They don't even exist. Because you're so stubborn about the point you want to make, right? So you have this point, Zack Snyder makes alt-right movies. Now his fans are also alt-right, right? And then you get Snyder cultists, you get all this stuff, all this coming from this one stream, right? And then when people like myself, people from the comic debate team, people from around the fandom, they address it. They say, I'm right here, right? So I think some YouTuber made a whole stink a month ago about 300, about Man of Steel, about BVS, and every time a person of color, a woman, anyone, right, quote tweeted, asked them, ignore, right? And then when I decided I usually have to ignore it, but I said, you know what, let me quote tweet also. Let me just make my point right now. And it ended up getting significant traction, so that YouTuber ended up addressing me, and instead of looking, and it's in my bio, you see all of my bylines where I've reported what I'm doing. It's like, oh, yeah, some guy, he writes fans blogger, you know. I'm like, okay, yeah, so that's what I am, right? Okay, so then I'm thinking, you're just validating what we're all thinking here, that not only are you racing, you're so stubborn in your point that it paints a bad picture of you, you know, your character. Yeah. So, you know, and then when you look at the fandom, when you open up the reins and you see, like, in all those tribute videos that people do, when people come together, when there's campaigns going on to tweet at significant times, there's every little point on the map is up, right? Yeah. Because people from all over the world are coming together. And I find that great about this fandom. I love being in it. Why I'm so invested is partly because you get to see and learn from so many people that normally you don't get to hear from.
Yeah. I love seeing those waves, by the way, when you talk about trending, when there's like 8 a.m. your time, and they're like, why my time? Well, so you see this wave from international as it goes from East Coast to West Coast, and Hawaii's the last. But it's just this giant wave of trending, and it's just like this love from around the world that goes across, and it's just so awesome.
Even for us, when we were putting this event together, you know, like, we had to figure out all the time zones because our guests are all over the place, you know. And I mean, it's cool in one way. Also caused a great mix-up with Jay. Poor Jay. I feel bad about it, but so it's like, you know, it's, you can see when you are actually in this whole thing and you speak to the people, you kind of see, like, they're from all over the world. I mean, if we go all the way back, you know, to the beginnings, I mean, we would find you, Sheraz, we would find you, Chris, and we would find Fiona. And it's like, you know, that's literally like, what else do you say about this? You know, if there is not, like, if this doesn't show how much we are represented, I don't know what does, because it's like, this movement is global and it's all people, all kinds of people, you know. And by that I mean not just, you know, racial diversity, but also, like, you know, disabilities,
genders, everything.
Gender, LGBTQ, all this stuff. Like, all these people are represented in, you know, they feel represented in these movies because they, you know, they come and they watch Zack's films and they feel strongly enough about them to go and support it the way that we did. And I mean, speaking, you know, we've had the privilege to speak to so many interesting people in these 2 days, and all of them said the same thing. What you guys pulled off is something that has never been seen before. And I always said, this is a two-way street. The only reason we would do what we've done and campaign so hard is because we saw something worth fighting for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such an important part of like everything. And I think that you know, again, trolls and all these people, they choose to ignore it, but Zack's fandom is so diverse, so beautifully diverse. And Warner Brothers, like you said, made a big mistake in underestimating the audience.
Right.
This con, somebody, I saw that there was a poster made for South America. Like they took your poster and put it in time for
That's cool.
for somebody, and it was like the numbers that got of retweet was huge. And I'm like, okay, so the fact that someone found the need to do that should tell someone somewhere that this just a little bit about how huge this fandom is. And if you look in the comments, the languages in the comment, I got excited, when I was like looking at the link, just in the comments.
Like even the people that were that were watching, they were saying that they were coming from like Ireland or India, and there's so many different, like, they're like, oh, like Zach's panel yesterday, they're like, oh, it's 3 a.m. right now, but I'm up right now watching this. And I was like, I don't think we really expected it to be so global, like the event, but it's just been amazing, and I'm so happy that there's so many people that have been able to watch and enjoy with us.
Yeah, I'm sure Warner Media is really trying to, let's get this HBO Max international. I'm sure there's like tons of people. There's a customer base out there that wants to see this.
That's the one thing that they need to figure out, because I know, like, from perspective of where I am in the UK, there's some contractual issues for that. Like, they said that they can't actually start running HBO Max as it is HBO Max until 2025 due to contracts with Sky and stuff like that. So I would hope that, if they can't launch HBO Max as it is, at least they'll be able to like give the content out by next year, because they have a massive audience for this. And, I know for a fact people will want to see that movie. So, having it globally available, it's just benefit to them, if nothing else. So, I mean, I have HBO Max, but that's because I have VPN. But I have VPN and US address at Kohl's, but like, it's that's a bit of a privilege that I have and not that many people have,
And I think touching on Justice Con, I think it's worth stating, like how much this fandom is important. You can't take it for granted. I mean, other conventions, we know Comic-Con at home is happening at the same time. They're probably pouring thousands of dollars into marketing, into getting it out there and getting the word out there. But everything about Justice Con was organic, right? And everything is people from around the world doing their part. No matter how many followers you have on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, they're pushing it out there with whatever platform they have. And then the rewards come when someone like a Zack Snyder or Ray Fisher puts out the link themselves, right? Because it shows that, listen, other people would be paying out of pocket for the kind of audience that we have brought naturally together, right? Yeah. And that shows the power of Zack Snyder's films, because that wouldn't be the case if the films weren't there, right? And it shows how important it is to kind of not take your audience for granted, and also listening to your audience, because when you listen to your audience, you get 1 million tweets on November 17th, right? You get this kind of, uproar from fans when they're like, you know what? If you're not going to listen to us, we're going to make you listen to us. And our voice is global, right? That's so powerful that any other studio would dream for that. That you would dream for that kind of experience. And we're getting it organically, which is honestly amazing.
I mean, that's what, I said that yesterday on Dave's stream. You guys were there. I'm sure Chris was there, but I'm not sure if you were there at that point, Sheraz. But I did say it. I said the one amazing thing that, we really, we're so grateful for regarding this event. And you know what? I know it's a fan event. I know, things weren't perfect or stuff like that, but I would hope that people had fun and enjoyed it. And what I think is absolutely amazing about this is literally what you said, how it was people who pushed it off the ground, Okay, we came in and we said, okay, we're going to get you these guests and we're going to moderate these panels. But we had people design us the logos, we had Ink to the People jump in and help with when we went to the Todd for the first time and we told him about the idea, I said, okay, I can do this, this, and this. He was like, oh, I can do all this stuff. And then, AFSP was on board, and like people, people would make fun art, they would make videos, they would make their own trailers, they would make their own schedules. I mean, we got a shirt, like we were gifted a shirt like after 24 hours from announcing this thing. It was just, it was just these things that were so amazing, and so many messages of people saying, can we help you? Can we do something to help out? And you guys did massive work.
Yes.
Like, you went out there and you were promoting this event. You didn't know if this is gonna be worth watching, but you did it anyway. Like, and all this just means so much, and I think it shows what this fandom is and what we can do together.
We knew it was going to be great. We knew it was going to be awesome.
Thank you.
You can read someone's genuine nature. You can read people's genuine nature after that. And Meg, obviously, I know you from comic debate, so I know where your heart is. And of course, both Cole and Nana, you guys have put so much work for years that when you come with an event, we already know where your heart is. We know that you guys are doing this selflessly and doing it for everyone else as almost like a celebration event. So that's why it was a no-brainer that, are we going to put all of comic debate to help market? Of course. There was no question about it. And same thing with Chris. All of us were, down for it because we knew what the goal is here, is to have fun. We did the job. The Snyder Cut is coming out. Now it's time to have some fun. And this event was really just about having fun, really. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you guys are gonna make
Global
me cry.
celebration.
Oh my god. Thank you.
I mean, like even the little things, like the schedules you mentioned, it somebody made schedule for Justice Gone and Crisis and made it in a way that you open the browser and you see it in your time zone. Like how it's just, people are great. Honestly, this was such a good, I mean, we are not finished yet.
We still got a few panels, so
I like, honestly, to anybody who's listening, just stop by for Sean's panel because he's got some cool stuff.
Yeah, he does.
He's been very excited about this event, and he put together some cool little stuff, for people to have, and so
I can't wait. Hopefully my internet holds out before this hurricane hits.
Oh my god, yeah, that's true. When is it supposed to hit?
Tonight, I think, but it's a lower case hurricane. I'll be alive. I'll fly.
Better.
No, I'm kidding.
All right, well, I think...
Look, you
awesome.
still got that stream tonight with Dave. No, you gotta show up.
Yeah, we'll see. I said we'll play it by ear.
Well, I'm watching Watchmen, so
yeah. Well, I think this is probably a good spot to end this panel. Do you guys have anything you'd like to say? Wrap up?
No, just can't wait for Zack Snyder's Justice League in 2021.
Yes.
The whole world is watching.
Yes.
Same thanks to you guys for, of course, inviting me. Very happy to be on and to speak on, different perspectives, because having those perspectives are very important. And I know, Meg, this is your idea, bring this panel on, so good stuff. Kudos to you. And then make sure for Sean's panel, he doesn't spill all my quotes.
Yeah.
Most important quote of the book.
He promised that one word that people are pestering him about.
Yes.
So we're curious about that. That should be fun. But yeah, no, thank you guys so much for coming on. This has been so much fun. People in the chat seem to have fun, so that's nice.
Joe, would you like to say anything?
Thank you.
Yeah, would you like to?
Just, my hat's off to you ladies. You pulled off. I mean, like I said to Meg yesterday, you guys did the damn thing. Like, the thing is huge, and you controlled it like pros. I mean, you can never tell at all that this is like the first time that this has been done. And I hope that it's not the last.
Mm-hmm.
It would be cool.
Yeah. This does feel official, girls. I mean, like, the pass, everything. Like, I was like, where is it? Oh, but that's how if I'm nervous, I'm like, oh my god, this is official. This is not like some YouTuber channel. This
all last week I
so
felt like I was gonna puke every day. It was so bad.
Thank you so much for inviting me to
problem.
this. This is awesome.
Well, thank you for coming.